Hello and welcome to PMCLounge.com. Let's talk about story maps. And story maps is a topic that comes from the Agile world. So if you are preparing for your PMP exam, then the Agile part of your PMP exam, right? That's where you are going to find story maps as a concept. We have an entire playlist of all the videos that we have done on agile topics that can help you prepare for your PMP exam. That will be the second link in the description below the entire playlist, because the first link is going to be an article on this topic over at our official website bmclounge.com. So if you're into reading articles, check out the first link. If you want to check the entire playlist of every single video that we have created on agile, then check out the second link. If you're preparing for your PMI-ACP exam, then check out the third link, because this concept is going to help you with PMI-ACP as well. All right, let's get started. So story maps basically help you visualize the backlog. Now, if you're wondering what is a backlog, that's where the second link in the description is going to help you out, because that is the entire playlist. We have videos around backlog as well. But how do you visualize the backlog? That's where story maps come into the picture. Now, all the features, all the stories can basically be placed on a story map, such that a significant information can be obtained by merely looking at the story map, right? So when you place features and user stories, and we are going to take a look at an example story map in the next slide itself, so you will have a fair idea of what a story map looks like. And you're basically placing features and user stories on your story map. That way, when you look at a story map, you will have a fair idea of all the information that you would need, right? Significant amount of information that you would need, where we are, what we are creating, why we are creating it, and stuff like that. So if you're a non-technical stakeholder in the project, nothing like a story map, right? Because you don't have to get into the details of how a feature work, or how the development team is going to create or deliver a user story or develop a user story. You just need to take a look at the backlog, the scope of the project as such, what the team plans to deliver in which sprint, and all of that. If you're a non-technical stakeholder, look for a story map, because that is going to provide you significant information, perhaps all the information that you would need about a project. So this is the structure of a story map. This is how a story map looks like. Now you may have a software to create a story map, or you might use a board and sticky notes, whatever that you want to do with your story map. But this is the basic structure of a story map. You have backbone on the top. A backbone is essentially a grouping, a high level grouping of all the features that you want to deliver as part of your product, or as part of the different sprints that you are going to have. These could also be your most core features. Now, as an example, let's say you are creating a social media website or a social media app, mobile app, right? The two core features that you have decided which will be part of your product are: users should be able to share posts publicly, and users should be able to send private messages. These are the two core features that you have decided for your social media website or application, right? So these form the backbone of your product, and these are listed on the top. Then you have walking skeleton. What exactly is a walking skeleton? It is basically the most important user stories from the backbone. One thing to understand, one concept to keep in mind when we talk about walking skeleton is very simple. It's that once these features, the features that you're going to see in these columns, right, in these rows, in this particular row and two columns, these features, once these are ready, the product becomes usable. So you can actually ship the product once your walking skeleton features, functionalities are ready. So that is why walking skeleton is always release one. Now it is possible that release one is not necessarily sprint one. You might need 4 sprints to do one release. That is possible, right? So let's take a look at what are the features that are important for walking skeletons. So the core feature is share posts publicly. In order to do that, the functionality that you need to provide is the users should be able to create their profile. The user should be able to see a timeline and their feed. The users should be able to share reactions on the statuses or posts that other people share. Users should also be able to share their own text statuses, right? So these are the walking skeleton features. These are the most critical features. Once you deliver it, once you deliver these three, the users will be able to share their posts publicly. So that is why this release is called the walking skeleton. Similarly, for the core feature called private sending private messages, you need to create a functionality where users can add other users as friends, and you need to create a platform of sorts that can be used as a messenger for users to be able to send private messages for to the friends that they have already added. So these five in row two make up the backbone, the most important features of the backbone, right? There are two core features in the backbone. And when you talk about walking skeleton or release one, you have five features that basically, when you deliver them, you are delivering a usable product to the customer. Like I said, release one is not necessarily sprint one. The engineering may look at all this and they may say, we need 8 sprints or we need 4 sprints to deliver all these features. So 4 sprints comprise of release one. Once you complete all your 4 sprints, that's when you are going to deliver this product to the user and the user can actually start using it. The product has become usable because most core features, two of the most core features, their most important features have been delivered. Their most important user stories have been delivered. Then you have release two. Release 2 is where you want your users to be able to upload photos and albums. You want your users to be able to create polls. This is under share posts publicly, of course. And when it comes to send private messages, you want users to be able to make audio calls. You want users to be able to make group calls. So these are the kind of features that you want your users to be able to use after release 2. Again, release 2 does not mean just one sprint. There could be multiple sprints in one release. Then there's release 3. You want your users to be able to share videos. You want users to be able to go live. You want your users to make video calls or group video calls under private messages, right? So this is how a story map for a social media website or an app looks like. I hope you are able to understand and you're able to visualize how story maps might look like for the products that you are working on or on the projects that you're working on if it were to go into the agile mode, right? So this again is very usable, like I said, for someone who wants to have significant amount of information about the product, significant amount of information about the upcoming releases, and this does not have any technical information of any sort. So very helpful for those who are non-technical stakeholders. We'll talk more about story maps after this reminder for a training called Project Management for Non-Project Managers. You can head over to pmclounge.com/pm for non-PM. Everything is entirely free. Thousands of people have made use of this training and they were non-project managers. So do check it out. All right, so we talked about story map. This is the story map that we discussed. Now, some important points about the story maps. Number one, releases can be sprints too. I told you how release one could be 4 sprints long, release two could be 4 or 3 or 2 sprints long, but it is possible that your story map, this doesn't look like a story map which will have one release in one sprint, but if your story map is light enough, there aren't many features, and your engineering team is, you know, uh, pretty confident that they can deliver one release in one sprint, then understand the fact that releases can be sprints too. First release should focus on delivering as many walking skeleton features as possible. So that's something that we talked about in the previous slide as well. Walking skeleton are the features. Once these features are delivered, the product actually becomes usable, and that is what the first release need to focus on. Number three, beyond the first release, the team works on features as per their priority. Now, it is possible that you have video calls on release 3, but somebody comes in, let's say your product owner or any important stakeholder may come in and say, hey, we don't need group calls right now in release 2. What we actually need are audio calls and video calls. So this actually has higher priority than video calls have higher priority as compared to group calls, and it is possible that uh, video call as a feature moves to release 2 from release 3. So that is something which is possible because like I said earlier, beyond the first release, the team is going to work on features as per their priority. And this is what we just talked about. User stories can move to a different release as more information becomes available. So when more information got available and we got to know that video calls are actually more important than group calls, that is why this feature could actually move to release 2. Finally, team can easily visualize the entire release plan with the help of a story map. This is the number one usage of story maps, of course. Also, one last point. Remember, this is a gasp. I almost forgot that there were 6 points here. So remember, this is a gasp. A gasp is a generally accepted Scrum practice. So this answers the question that you might have had that, hey, we work in a Scrum environment. We deliver agile projects. We deliver agile releases. We have never made a story map so far. Well, because it is a generally accepted Scrum practice. It is not mandatory practice, or it is not something mandatory that you must do for every single of your agile projects. Question for this video, do you create story maps? Because like I said in the previous slide, it is a generally accepted Scrum practice. It is not something that every team must do. And if you actually use story maps, what tool do you use to create them? And that's all that we had in this video. I hope you were able to understand what story maps are. If you like our work, consider contributing at pmclounge.com/contribute. Don't forget to do all the good stuff. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, hit the like button. It helps us stay motivated. And as always, don't forget to check out the website pmclounge.com, your number one free PMP and project management resource. Thank you.